As Rangers fans, we know that a goaltender is the backbone of a hockey team. At Abundant Wealth Management, we are your financial backbone, offering financial planning, wealth management, tax planning, and estate planning services. To schedule your free consultation, head to www.abundant-wealth.com. That's www.abundant-wealth.com. Abundant Wealth Management. Live, plan, triumph.
You're listening to Rangers Radio, your home for end-to-end coverage of the New York Rangers. With your hosts, Brendan Azoff, Zach Domino, and Steve Pappas. Blue Shirts fans, the puck drops now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to New York Rangers Radio. It's been a minute since we have all been together. We all got a lot going on in our personal lives, some changes going on at work. It's tax season too for Zook and myself. It's been a fun round, and the Rangers haven't really given us much to talk about until on Tuesday when they fell 2 spots and they can't even have success in the draft lottery. So Toronto Maple Leafs jump all the way up to 1. San Jose jumps all the way up from 9 to 2. And the Rangers are stuck picking 5, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we dive into that, what's up, boys? It's been a minute.
I finally understand what these people in 2019 said when they said the draft is rigged when the big market gets it. Like, you mean to tell me, and I saw this stat, and it was the most, like, peak it's rigged stat. The Toronto Maple Leafs in the last 10 years have missed the playoffs twice. In 2015, 16, and this year. They've gotten the number 1 overall pick both times that they've missed the playoffs, and in between that have had playoff runs. So you could say it's rigged all you want. I mean, I think what's more egregious in my mind is the fact that San Jose gets the second pick. They're 4 points out of a playoff spot, and now all of a sudden they're either going to get a really good player or they're going to get a haul, which is what I would like to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of if it's rigged or if it's not, it's stupid. No one understands what's going on until the last ball is getting drawn, and then it tells you like what numbers you need, which I guess at that point it's easy to understand, but just like nobody gets it. They could be throwing percentages up there.
I'll tell you this.
They even went to commercial during when they were counting the balls, which if you do believe it's rigged, it's funny that they're doing it live to then cut to commercial when they're doing the thing about placing the balls in, which would be the time that you would like change the balls to something that would help. Just such a weird thing. But look, when it came down to, like, I got excited, you know, when that last ball was getting drawn, when it said to the Rangers, what do we need, 9-14, I think. But also the odds are very weird because the way it's structured, and that only the top 2 get chosen. If you look at everybody in the top 5, it was basically their highest odds were to fall back a pick. The way it is, like the Rangers' top 1 was like 41% to get 4th pick. So it is very weird. And from a lottery standpoint, I guess in a weird way, you know, it quote unquote works. Like there has been extreme randomness, you know, as to who's getting these higher picks. But obviously, and we'll get into it, you know, a lot of people are saying this may be a 4-person draft. So it makes complete sense for the Rangers to fall to 5 and to leave a man who, when you leave him to make decisions, he tends to make the wrong one. Leave it to, you know, a 5th overall pick to Chris Drury, where if you look at mocks, that's where a lot of different people have been getting slotted.
I will say this, when you talk about, you know, it's a 4-person draft, and I know the Rangers sit here at 5, but you know, we're talking about teams in front, i.e. San Jose, right, that don't necessarily need to take the best player available, which sounds stupid, but, you know, they were so close to making the playoffs, and really it was on the back of Macklin and Celebrini this year. But, you know, they're most likely going to take a defenseman, right? And you'd have to think that, you know, the first 2 teams, Toronto, well, I guess not the first 2, but 1 and 3, Toronto and who was it? Vancouver would take one of Stenberg and McKenna or Malhotra. So when you get down to it, when you get to the 4th and 5th pick, you're probably going to have one of, probably not Stenberg, probably not Malhotra. Honestly, you might see Gavin McKenna go 4 in this draft. You could see McKenna go 4, which means the Rangers have their pick of the crop really from the defense position. Which we sat here, we've talked privately, and the forward group can obviously use some work, but the decor is miserable outside of the first pair. So, I mean, if you could sit here and say, hey, we're going after a Carson Kales who's, a bigger body but can skate, or a Chase Reed that can really skate, or even Verhoff, who might not necessarily – I keep seeing Verhoff being like this high risk, high reward, right? Like Reed is a little bit less of a risk but more of about the same reward. Verhoff, he's only 17. He's playing in the NCAA and in a good program in North Dakota. He just can't skate, and that seems to be up the Rangers' alley. But, you're asking this kid you're not asking this kid to be good right now. I would not think that he would be in the lineup in this season or even next season, right? Like you're probably projecting this kid 2-3 years out. You're not drafting a kid for this year.
Yeah, I think, it's a lot easier in my mind. And, this is a hill I'll die on if somebody wants to comment and kind of argue with me here. I think it's significantly easier to sign a free agent or to make a trade for a forward. I think there's a plethora of forwards that are top tier. Every year come the trade deadlines, come free agency, there's always going to be some higher end forwards available. There's 12 forwards on a roster, right? So there's ample amount of them. If you're going to draft and you're not in that situation, the 1, 2, 3 range where you're taking best player available, in my mind, what you go with your need, right? And the Rangers' need is to draft a defenseman. They're weak on the right side, especially if they consider trading Schneider. They're weak on the left side. They need defensemen. So the draft, really, you got to hit on goalie and you got to hit on defensemen in the draft. Goalie, the Rangers have had no problem hitting on over the last 35, 40 years. Now they have to start to draft these defensemen and develop them. And going into it, obviously if they had jumped up to 1, it's a different conversation. But going into it, I was always looking at these defensemen. I know I had conversations with you guys about Verhoff probably 3 months ago. Chase Reed's always been somebody that's climbing up the boards. Carell's is intriguing because of his offensive ability, his puck moving ability, his skating ability. But I don't really think it's a 4-person draft from the Rangers' perspective, because you have Verhoff, Reed, you have Smits, you have Carell's. There's some good defensemen there, and odds are 3 of those 4 names at least are going to be available when you pick 5. So they have the ability to select a player that's going to fit their mold and is going to be able to automatically skyrocket to the top of their defensive prospect rankings. I know that, I'm going to give a shout out to the prospect Don on X. He's rising up in the field, and, he sent a message out that basically said Reed, Verhoff, Carell's, or Smits are all in that range for them. And I think that all 4 of those players fit the Rangers mold of what they need right now. So 4-person draft, sure. I don't think you go and, Viggo Bjork and Tynan Lawrence, they've kind of fallen back a little bit. I don't think that you make that reach at 5. Especially when you have a positional need that you could fill with one of those players, and that they're going to be available. There's 4 names there. McKenna, Stenberg, and Malhotra, we know, are probably going to go in the top 4. So you're going to have your pick of one of those 4 defensemen. You might as well make the most of it. Now, do they pick the right one? That's the question that we're going to have to answer, and that's going to take a couple of years for us to get that answer, because none of these guys are really going to make that jump next season.
Yeah, and Smits is actually the interesting one out of all of them, right? Like we saw him play at the Olympics.
He played against adults.
We've seen him play against adults, and he's been really good. So obviously, I think we've all come to the conclusion. I don't know if Chris Drury's come to this conclusion that skating ability is the top priority, especially in this era of the National Hockey League. And a guy like Chase Reed and a guy like Carson Kales is more in tune with that style of play. I haven't necessarily looked as much into Smith. He was just a guy that now I'm realizing is sort of available for them if they want. And he's played well against adults. He's played against adults for, I believe, 3 years now or 2 years now. And he's only 18. So, I mean, who knows where you can go with – I think it's very difficult. I'm going to knowing who the general manager is to get this pick wrong. I think it's very hard to get this pick wrong. Like you're not taking a forward. You are not taking a goaltender. I mean, you have the pick of basically the top 3 guys in this draft from a defensive standpoint at your fingertips. I think it's really hard for Chris Drury to get this wrong. I'd be shocked. I'm not a Chris Drury defender in the slightest, but I'd be shocked if he gets this one wrong.
So is it Carell's or how do you pronounce the last name? I'm going to call him Carson. All right. So the reason, obviously, knew nothing about him before the lottery, but have done like literally any single article that's been written about these prospects now because I was stupid enough to think we were going to somehow be in the top 3. I've read to Carl's. Okay, to lengthen my my knowledge base of these prospects. I mean, if what everyone's saying that he has the potential to be the top offensive defenseman in the draft is true, he's got to be the guy. Because the one thing I've watched not full games, but I've tuned into actually probably the most individual playoff games when the Rangers aren't in it that I've ever tuned into for, just for like a period here or there of like a bunch of different games. The two things you realize where the Rangers lack versus all the good teams is A, which everybody understands, team speed. They're super slow. The other thing is play-driving defensemen that all of these good teams have. Like, even their worst defensemen can handle the puck and can carry the puck. And the Rangers need to, because they have such limited skills with, carrying the puck on the defenseman's stick, they have to make 2 or 3 passes just to get out of the zone a lot of times because these guys can't carry the puck. So I think we're all kind of in the mindset now, or at least us three, and I've seen a lot of Rangers fans turn to it. And now the dream of McKenna has kind of gone away. It's what does this team need? And it's clearly puck-driving defensemen. And I also agree with what Brendan said that just from a numbers game, like you can find a serviceable forward, especially on a one-off year that puts up career numbers in a system and just gets hot for a year. Defensemen like that really don't hit the market too much, at least from a free agent standpoint. And to trade for one of them, we saw what the going rate is for, obviously a top one in Quinn Hughes, but it's not something that the Rangers can put together at this point because their prospect pool is barren. That, you got to look defense and you got to look at what defenseman has the most offensive ability and can skate. That's why I've soured on Verhoff. And look, because I'm saying that out loud, he'll probably be the pick. And again, I know nothing other than what other people are writing about them. But if you're telling me, do I want the defensive defenseman that maybe has a higher floor and is better right now versus an offensive defenseman that's more of a project, you got to take shots. You got to take shots, especially when you're as far away from the Rangers as the Rangers are. And for exactly what you guys said, this guy isn't going to help us, or do we need him to help us next year? Because that's not our timeline. That I hope they go with the guy with the highest ceiling who fits the modern NHL game.
Well, that's you hit the nail on the head right there, right? So I don't think you're looking offensive or defensive style defenseman. You're looking at the most mobile defenseman, right? You can, if you put them into the right spot and they have the ability to skate, that can cover up a lot of sins, right, on both sides of the puck. And to me, it just goes back to the kind of the construction of their roster and prospect pool that Drury has tried to emulate, which is we've called it old fashioned numerous times in the show. But like, even if you look back at 2024, and it wasn't just the Rangers, so this is not like a knock on Drury, but the Rangers took EJ Emery 30th overall in that draft. And I think the 43rd pick was Cole Hudson, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're really looking at best player available and mobile defenseman, EJ Emery versus Cole Hudson, and listen, EJ Emery could wind up making the NHL, could wind up being, a third pair or second pair type shutdown defenseman. We have no idea how that's going to pan out. It doesn't look that way right now. He might be a third pair guy, but if you're looking at those two guys, you go, modern NHL, I want the guy that can move with the puck, right? I want the guy that could be dynamic. Now you fast forward 2 years later, they're sitting in not 30th, but 5th in the draft. You're going to have the option of 4 defensemen. All of them have high ceilings. We'll put it that way, right? They have high ceilings in different regards. I think Reed and Carl's are probably the highest offensive ceilings. I think Verhoff probably, if he pans out, could wind up being that Parayko style of big shot, shutdown defenseman.
Not to cut you off, but just because you both said it, are we like assuming, like, I in my mind have X Reed out? Like, maybe I'm wrong, but like, I think he's the one who's for certain goes in the top
I think
4.
Or
do you think he could slide?
95% chance he's not there.
Okay. Because like, for everything I read there's like almost a better chance he goes 2 than falls to 5. Based on team needs. So I heard you both. So like when you guys were saying 4 or 5 defensemen, I was just trying to figure out, like, are we including Reed and who the Rangers could possibly have available, or are you guys?
Well, San Jose is a wild card because, like Steven said, they could trade it.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to get to, and I wasn't sure when we were going to get to it here in the show, but there is a way here where the Rangers can pick second. San Jose is very much volatile with this pick. They don't need to use it. They can very much trade back. They can recoup assets, and I think the Rangers are a team that the Rangers in San Jose have done business before. We've talked about it plenty of times. I know I have, where the NHL is, you make deals with who you've made deals with. And the Rangers and San Jose, Mike Greer and Chris Drury are very well connected together. They've liked Braden Schneider. That helps with their defense. I don't know if you can necessarily package the fifth pick and Braden Schneider to move up to 2, or if you throw in a Vinny Trocheck to move up to 2 as well. If you go Trocheck, Schneider in the fifth pick for the second overall pick, or I mean, who knows, right? Like, I think you're both right in the fact that if San Jose is picking that second spot, Chase Reed is probably the guy. Which, I mean, we've seen teams that really, if the Rangers really want their guy, they could probably make a trade with San Jose to get their guy. If they really want Chase Reed, or if they think, hey, Chase Reed's fine, he's good, but we have the ability to get 2 more guys without, giving up assets. And who knows what the rest of the offseason looks like when it comes to potentially a Jason Robertson. And that's something we can get to down the line in a different episode. But, the Rangers have plenty of capital to go out and go trade for Jason Robertson in this offseason, or a Rope Hintz, depending on who Dallas wants to deal and who they want to sign. And then we go into the ability to offer sheet, right? Like, the Rangers have so many draft picks that I've had my eyes set on Anaheim, right? They have Trouba, they have John Carlson, who both are coming up at the end of the year. I would assume one of them is going to stay there. But then they have Zellweger and Minchikov that are probably going to look for more than just bridge deals. And if there's a team that could come in and swoop that up, I think the Rangers have the draft capital to go after the guy that I've seen is Olin Zellweger, right? I think he's a guy that could fit on the left side, a second pair that makes that decor from really bad to serviceable, I think.
Yeah, see, it's interesting with San Jose, right? Because I don't think that Schneider and the fifth is enough to move up to second. But you're talking about a team here that the 2026-27 NHL cap is going up to 104 now, right? We have those official numbers, so it's 104 million. They have 41.5 million in cap space, the Sharks. They are, I think it's like they're 15 million away from the floor. So the only way they're going to get to the floor with their current roster, because it's not like they have these big name guys that they have to re-sign. They're all on rookie contracts. They're so young. So a Trocheck and Schneider is $7.5-8 million that gets them up towards, the floor, right? So it's interesting. Now, what do the Rangers do? How do they pivot from that? Because yes, you're entering a rebuild year. If you move up to 2, you could potentially get the forward that you want, but you also now need to fill a center spot. You're going to need to fill a right D spot, because if you move up to 2, you're not drafting the defenseman, right? So it's very interesting.
Listen, here's the thing. I was going to say, even if you do move up 2, I don't think you take a forward unless Caleb.
I think Stenberg is really good, man.
Listen, I think I've said it. I think I've said it to you guys, and obviously it doesn't matter because they don't have the number 1 overall pick. But if I'm a general manager who has the number 1 overall pick this year, and my team needs a center, Gavin McKenna is not who I'm going with. Stenberg is not who I'm going with at 1. It's Malhotra. So it begs the question of, like, what order do these guys go in? And I think if you are the Rangers, you're right. If you're trading up to 2, you're probably going to draft either Stenberg, Malhotra, or McKenna, whichever one didn't go 1. Or you go after a Chase Reed. I mean, who knows? We've talked about how bad their defensive group is. Like you mentioned, you can go after an Alex Tuch in free agency this year. You can go after some of these guys in free agency at the forward position and patch that up, and even not as much patch it up, but proven guys in the league. I mean, Alex Tuch's having a great postseason. He's had a great year. Listen, the Rangers have $29 million to spend this offseason. I don't mind throwing 9 at Alex Tuch if it means shoring up your top 6. But, like, I think getting two guys in the back end and Fox and Reed on the right side, most teams don't have that kind of talent. I mean, I think if you're trading up to two, I wouldn't hate taking a defenseman there either.
It's
and a lot of it, like you guys are saying, is what they would have to give up to go up there, right? Because you can't create more holes to just get, you're filling out a roster. So it's tough.
If you're trading, I will say this: if you are trading Trocheck, Schneider, and the fifth for the second, you're probably drafting a center because you need.
I mean, I don't love that. I mean, I honestly don't love. I don't even know if that's what it would be, but like I just don't like that trade out loud because I feel like it's creating a huge hole. But at the end of the day, like what trade with Trocheck honestly doesn't? You know what I mean? Like we're probably not getting back something. We're probably not going to get back a guy that can go right into a slot, whether you call him a 2C or a 3C. So I mean, when you think about it from that standpoint, then we're probably trading him and we're probably not getting something that fits him immediately from that move. Then it kind of does make more sense, right? If you like absolutely love somebody and you get intel on who the Leafs are going to take, is like you guys are alluding to, the average, person out there that doesn't know that much about hockey, but is a sports fan, just knows Gavin McKenna. And it probably will be him, but the more you're looking under the hood, this isn't like, I don't think at this point, one of those drafts where it's like sure thing. Like, could it even be 99? Maybe, but it's definitely not one of those, whoever won the lottery won this guy. It's like there is a few guys that are being considered. So
there's been flip-flop. I mean, even throughout the course of the year, you had McKenna and Stenberg flip-flop, and you had people have Verhoff as high as 1 in some of their rankings.
There's some people that love Stenberg.
Smith.
Like I've been reading a lot of people that are like, he's clearly the best, and it's just because McKenna is the kid that went to Penn State and has been talked about forever versus Stenberg, abroad. Like some people are out there saying it's for sure Stenberg, but if you make the trade to 2, I would hope at that point you have intel on who is going 1. Even though at 2, you probably have a few guys, but it would be so Rangers to circle somebody to then have that person go first, and then you're left over with something nice.
I just don't see any trade getting made. I mean, I feel like we have this conversation every single year at the lottery, and then we have it again right before the draft, and all the hype gets talked up. All the beat reporters come out. Oh, these teams are active. They're talking. A lot of talk's going to happen on the draft floor. And every year we get disappointed. And the NHL is the one sport where it's so talent-based right now, especially in the young group, right? If you look at other sports, like, for instance, you look at basketball, baseball, there's this older group of guys that are still veterans around the league, and it's a little bit different to break into those sports. Baseball takes significantly longer unless you're a really top-flight guy. Basketball, it's a shorter draft, so it's easier to make it. Hockey's in that in-between where it's a 7-round draft. It's not easy to get to the NHL the first year, and you're also not sitting there hoping that these guys are going to come in necessarily make an impact right now for some of these teams. You're hoping that they develop into that top-end guy, and I don't see any situation in which San Jose sitting at 2 is going to be enticed by a Rangers offer. They might be enticed by another team's offer, but if you're San Jose and you really like Chase Reed and you're sitting at 2 knowing full well that the first overall pick in Toronto is going to probably be McKenna or Stenberg, right? I don't see any way that they don't take one of those 2 guys. If you're sitting first, you want to take the guy that's been consensus pretty much all year, or else if they wind up panning out and you didn't take him, that's going to be a big slap in the face, right? So I just don't see any way that there's an offer that entices San Jose, and then I think they take Reed. So now you're sitting there and you have 3 picks until your name is called at 5th, right? You have Malhotra on the board, you'll have Stenberg on the board, and then you'll have 2 defensemen that you might like. And you just got to hope that the guy that you really want is going to fall down to 5. They're not going to make a trade with Chicago. Chicago's not going to be enticed by anything the Rangers have. And at 3, Vancouver needs that pick more than the Rangers do at this point, so they're not going to make a trade.
Would you do 5 and 27 for 3?
No.
The only reason I asked that is because
it's not a good enough draft to be doing that.
Because I was looking at it and like it's big in the NFL, and I was seeing if the NHL had it, but like draft pick value, like how they come up with like those points. So when a trade happens in the NFL, they say this is how many points it's worth. The point system is literally exactly equal 5 and 27 for 3. That's why, again, I don't think it happens because, like you said, Vancouver needs that pick, and I do think there is a teardrop potentially after the first few picks. So they're probably not going to do it. But I was just saying, like, it does line up technically if you subscribe to like what these values are. It's like 50 and 13 points for 63 points.
It just all goes back to what we were talking about before, right? Like Steven, you mentioned Alex Tuck, right? These are all things that if a team is sitting there in that in-between stage that you go for, right? You're like, oh, okay, maybe we'll make a move. Maybe we'll actually trade out of 5 and acquire a player now. And to me, I can't comment on any of this because I don't know what the Rangers actually think. I mean, I've been vocal on the show that I think they need to tear it down more so than retool. And to tear it down, I think then, yeah, you make a trade like getting rid of a Trocheck, getting rid of a Schneider, and trying to move up to get a higher end player, right? But again, if they do that and then they sign Alex Tuck, it's mixed messaging because you don't give a guy $9 million if you're planning on truly going down and tearing it down, which the Rangers obviously don't want to do. So you draft 5, you take the best player on your board at 5, which might not be the best player available, knowing what the Rangers like to do in that mid-range, right? Vitaly Kravtsov, Elias Anderson, just to name a couple. But you take the best player on your board at 5, you look at the free agent market, you weigh the pros and cons of signing a couple of guys to fill some of the gaps for this year. You try to be competitive in a year where you have hopefully a healthy Fox and a healthy Igor all year, because we saw this past season when they were healthy, they were a 500 or better team, right? So you kind of try to fill the gaps as much as possible, but you cannot make a single move now that jeopardizes the growth of one of your prospects like a Perreault or jeopardizes your chance at building through younger talent in the future. And the only way the Rangers are going to get younger talent is by trading vets right now and by continuing to stockpile draft picks.
I guess before we head out and we've talked solely draft this entire show, I mean, I've done a lot of just digging on Puckpedia just because what else can you do at this point? And we had seen, first of all, Hartford had fired all their coaching staff, so that's another great organizational move. Whatever. But you look at some of these names, right, that were up last year, Sikora, the Hamelashes, Berard, these guys that, maybe not as much Berard, but the Fortescues, like these guys that played particularly well when they were up, do they get a shot at the start of next year? I mean, or are the Rangers going to sit here and go through free agency and try and patch up their bottom 4 defense and their bottom 6 through free agency again, which clearly has never worked?
It should be these kids getting a chance at this point.
Yeah, it should. I mean, they were playing well.
What's the point of continuing to sign veteran journeymen? Like, first of all, Melosh, Edstrom when he was healthy, Sikora, all these guys, Laba, they all looked good, and their ceiling's the third line, right? So you have your bottom 6. And I'm not even like Rempe should never even sniff the ice again, right? So you have your bottom 6 with the younger players. There's no need to go out here and sign more journeymen. If you're going to sign anybody that's a veteran, it should be on the defensive side to bridge some of that gap. Because even if you draft somebody 5th, they're not playing next year. So, to me, they're in this stage where there's a higher risk of them hurting themselves by trying to be too cute with the different signings, as opposed to just really seeing what you got. Because year 2, year 3 in the NHL, if you tell me that Melosh winds up scoring 10 to 12 goals, has 30 points, and he's on your third line, like that's plenty fine. So now you know that you have the cap space to go out and try to sign or acquire a higher end top 6 guy to fill that void and only pay Melosh, what is it going to be, $2 million on his next contract? And you could bridge that gap there. Draft a defenseman, let him develop. Next year comes around, you'll probably have a top 16 pick again. Draft another defenseman if you fall into that spot, right? Or draft the best player available. And that's where these teams start to develop, because the Rangers they only need 2 to 3 good drafts to really be back in contention because of the goaltender. Like I've watched some of the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, and I'm like, do the Rangers win a series? Probably not. But do they have a better chance than some of these other, like, I'm watching Freddie Anderson. I cannot get on the Carolina bandwagon to save my life. I've watched Freddie Anderson give up way too many bad goals. You cannot tell me that these teams can't score on him. It is crazy to me. And then you watch the other goaltenders just giving up some soft goals here and there. And I'm like, this is why, when the Rangers got in, they were making these runs when they shouldn't have. And like all you have to do is get into that dance,
Yep.
but you can't rush
Yep.
that. And I think that's the part where if I'm saying it, I know full well jury behind closed doors is like, oh yeah, we're one move away from getting that 8 seed, and that's where you wind up in purgatory, man.
Yeah, I mean, you sit here and you talk about the youth movement, right? And this is sort of the only sport where the youth kind of take over. But you look at some of these teams that are in the second round, and Anaheim, Buffalo, Montreal, Philadelphia, even like these are all like some of the younger teams in the league. And I mean, granted, Edmonton was beat down. Pittsburgh stinks. And I'll say this: that Buffalo Montreal series is the best series I think we're gonna get. Maybe Minnesota and Colorado. Just
Montreal
from a
Tampa
pure
was
talent.
pretty good.
Montreal Tampa was good, but I think Buffalo and Montreal is just the energy from both of those buildings and the fan base is on top of the way both of those teams play the game, fast and in your face, and they hate each other. They hate. I mean, we forget Buffalo has rivals because they've been bad for 15 years, but like this is an organization that the Sabres hate. So I mean, that's going to be a great series. But again, those are two of the younger teams in the league, and that the Rangers are starting to trend in that direction just based off of the fact that they're shipping out these older guys and they're going to have these top draft picks that are going to come up soon. So I know we
and
all
who rebuilt the Canadians the right way.
It's Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, but it was Jeff. See, but this is actually good for the Rangers, right? Because if you have all these young teams that are in the playoffs right now that are having some success, only one team this year is going to win it all. So all those young teams are going to be Colorado, looking to add that missing piece, and it's going to be Colorado, I think. But a Buffalo, a Montreal, Anaheim, all these guys that they have this young core. And when you look at the playoff time, Vincent Trocheck screams player that you want on that third line that could do both sides. He could do everything, right? He can kill penalties. He could be on your power play if you need. Great face-off man, which is huge in the postseason. So these younger teams are going to that have a ton of cap space now because the Rangers have like 26, 29 million, whatever it is. They're only 12th in the league. So there's 11 teams, and a lot of those 11 teams are the young teams that were right outside the playoffs, like the Sharks, are in it right now. It's the perfect season to start to make some of these moves. And there's going to be a market for it because these GMs have this urge now to get back, not only back to the playoffs, but to actually get over that hump. And if you're smart, you don't go for it this year, but you start to nitpick who you really want on this team and who's expendable. And 3 years left at $5.5 million for Trocheck is going to be really appetizing to a lot of these teams.
Yep. Before we go, do you guys want to give your predictions for this round? Let's go this round because we'll be back before the Cup final.
I'll go Colorado, Ducks, Canadians, Hurricane.
Yeah, I'm going Buffalo. I mean, I can't not say Buffalo at this point, but Buffalo, Carolina. I mean, Carolina might have the easiest path to the Eastern Conference final that I've ever seen. I mean, they're legitimately played the Ottawa Senators, who are probably a 7, 6 seed, and then they're playing Philly, who is the 8. So I mean, what a path that they got. And then I mean, Colorado's a wagon, and I'll go the Ducks as well. I think the Ducks are fun. The Ducks give me, and I say this just because I mean this the way that I've seen them play. The Ducks sort of play like the West Coast version of Carolina. Like they berate you with shots, and they are peppering Carter Hart. And Hart's been good. So, that series is a bit of a toss-up, but I think youth and energy get through on that one.
Yeah, I'm going to take Buffalo. I'm going to take the Ducks, even though I really think Vegas gets it done just because of I just don't like them, and I think that they have that way of finding ways to win series. So I'll go Buffalo. I'll go Ducks. I'm going to Carolina, no-brainer. And then Colorado. To me, Colorado's cup to lose. They look too good.
Agreed.
They're 6-0 right now. They're going to lose, I think, game 3. I think Minnesota has a couple of days off. They'll get one at home. But that team, once they get, if you could tell me that they get through these first 2 rounds, losing 1 or 2 games, and then their next opponent's going to be either the Ducks or Vegas, who the Ducks are young, they're going to destroy them, and Vegas is just they're not that good. And then they're going to get to the Stanley Cup final and potentially play Carolina or a Buffalo Montreal team that, even though they might be coming in feeling good, I don't think any of those teams have faced the caliber that they're about to face in Colorado. So to me, it's their cup to lose.
Yep, absolutely.
All right,
boys, it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. We'll try to do this again soon. I know
Yeah.
I'm pretty busy, but we'll figure it out. And I don't know when the draft is, but we'll talk before that.
I think it's like June 26th or something. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we'll try to find some time, but we'll see who the Rangers wind up picking. If any trades happen, we'll see all about all of that. But regardless, tough draft lottery for them. You know, we went in there thinking 3 and wound up 5, and we'll see what happens at the draft. But it was fun. We'll talk soon, and we'll see who wins the Stanley Cup final this year too.
All right, see you guys.